Well, so thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I'm Gerard from LAMSIC. Very happy that we have a panel today in conjunction or collaboration with the Teacher Training and Education SIG. Thank you for the work that you've put into it. Thank you for the panelists for being here. If you do have any tech hassles, you can just type it into the box and I can see if I can resolve those. May I ask that while the speakers are speaking that you have your microphones on mute, just to avoid any background noise while they're speaking. And again, thank you very much, and over to you.
Hello, everyone. Some of you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's exciting to be here. Could you please remind you that it would be great if you could turn off your microphones when you're not speaking. And we'd like to thank LAMSIC, Leadership and Management Special Interest Group of IATEFL. They came to us with an idea saying that they have been continuing this series of panels for a while, and they said that they have been receiving some questions about teacher training, and they came up with the idea of perhaps we could collaborate about this. And here we are, Teacher Training and Education SIG. Most of the members are all, apart from Tom, who is from the teacher development SIG. And because I have a couple of minutes now, I can tell you a little bit about the difference between teacher development and teacher training and education SIG. So many people ask these questions to us. Teacher development is for all the teachers in the world. All the teachers need to be better teachers. So we are for continuous improvement. So teacher development is actually for everybody. But what teacher training and education SIG is more specialized is that training of pre-service teachers and in-service teachers. We are more focused on that, and today we try to bring together a few different topics that are relevant, especially in this type of the period of time that we are experiencing altogether in the world. So my colleagues are going to be talking about different aspects of teacher training during the COVID-19 period, maybe, and it will continue. It looks like it will continue. It has brought us a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities, which probably is going to last longer. And we'll need to adjust to this new type of teaching, perhaps. So we will be focusing on issues from observations online to in-service and pre-service teaching online. And each participant is going to introduce themselves with a couple of sentences, and then they will talk about their focus. And then in 5 minutes, I will stop them. And then I will be noting down your questions that could be addressed to anyone. And I will, when everything finishes, I'm going to address these questions to the relevant parties, if that's okay. Does that sound okay, Andy, Gerard? I believe this is the plan. So may I please introduce, thank you, Andy, introduce Adam Banstra. Could you tell us, Adam, about what you are doing and where you are based?
Sure, thanks, Bridget. I'm based in Germany right now. I came here about 2 years ago, but I spent about 10 years here 10 years ago, so I'm returning back to the roots. I started teaching here in company in 2001 or 2000, right around there, mostly in corporate settings. And since then, I've gone on to be a curriculum manager and an academic manager, vice principal, school director, and a teacher trainer. And now I've come back to Germany, and since the COVID crisis started, I've been doing only teacher training, getting people prepared for new challenges and things like that. What I'm going to talk about today is one aspect of the teacher training I've been doing here in Germany, and that's the observation component of the training. Basically, the rationale for, well, everyone knows the rationale for observations, but we're doing online observations. And the rationale behind the system that I'm using, I'll explain the system later, is basically to tackle a lot of issues all at once. Teachers anyway often have mixed feelings about observations, so I wanted to address that. Combined with mixed feelings and sometimes trepidation about these observations, there are also insecurities that have come up with the changes that are going on now. So with COVID and everything, teachers are already feeling a bit insecure or a bit maybe challenged more than they otherwise would be, especially the teachers that are new, but also the teachers that have been teaching the same way for 20s, insecurities. As well as some teachers have never taught online, and suddenly they're teaching online now. It's a new challenge, and even experienced teachers feel like they're beginners again. In this context, the specter of an observation can be unpleasant, to say the least. Even developmental observations, the non-judgmental observations that we try to use to develop teachers, it can be intimidating. And so the big question was how to carry out meaningful developmental observations in this context. And that's what I've been trying to do, and I think with actually some success. I haven't reinvented the wheel or anything here. It's just a bit. You could say I made some practices COVID ready to deal with some of the challenges that are specific to our industry right now. Basically, the main focus of this type of observation was to give teachers an element of autonomy and control over the observation process. In this COVID period, I think teachers, especially right now, feel like they don't have much control, and they don't have the autonomy that they enjoyed before when they were confident in their positions and confident in their processes and confident in the lesson plans maybe they've been using forever. And so to give them autonomy and control in the observation process, I thought was quite important. And with this developmental observation, it's still connected to the school, and there's still all the elements of an observation that are important from the administration and the teacher training side as well. And so, but it's not hindered by giving teachers this control. Another rationale for this is how do we carry out a meaningful observation inside this context, and one way we can do that is by taking this new challenge of online teaching, or for some teachers it's a new challenge of online teaching, and making it into an advantage that they can own this advantage rather than just being saddled with this new challenge. So let me just jump right into it then. I mean, there's pretty much a standard in-person observation style. I mean, there are variations on it, but basically the normal time, in normal times, the observation schedule is basically the teacher submits a lesson plan, the observer attends a lesson or part of a lesson and takes some notes. The teacher then, after the lesson, submits a lesson reflection as sort of a conversation fodder. And then between the observer and the teacher, you have a feedback session. And in that session, or after that session, or a combination, you negotiate the next developmental steps. I think that sounds familiar to everyone, I hope. Yeah, good. All right. This process is not so dissimilar. It's actually a process that I started experimenting with as an academic manager in London about 10 years ago. Years ago, we were in person and we didn't have Zoom, or we didn't need Zoom. I don't think Zoom existed. but we were using mobile phones and those little flip cameras. Does anyone remember those flip cameras? They're basically invented before mobile phone cameras were good at taking video. So we used those with a tripod, basically. Teachers set up the camera in the back of the room, and we went from there. Now we have Zoom, so it's a lot better, a lot more possibilities, a lot more quality, just with the technology of the video recording. Sorry, 5 minutes. Oh my God. Sorry. Okay, so very quickly then, I'll just go through what this observation looks like, this observation schedule. Jeez, it's still going. It looks like this. Basically, if you start here, planning like normal, right? And then the teacher teaches the lesson and records the lesson. And then they reflect on the lesson. And then, but in this process, the teacher can also decide, oh, I don't like that lesson. I don't want to talk about that lesson, or I don't want to use that lesson for an observation. I don't think I would learn something from it, or I don't think there would be anything useful from it, or I messed it up. I don't want to show the observer that lesson. Fine. Okay, so we can go back to the planning stage, re-record, do a different lesson with the same class, do a different lesson with a different class or a different student, no problem. Then they enter the reflection stage, and the reflection stage is basically the same as an in-person situation where they submit the reflection documents to the observer. And the biggest change comes in the next step here, in the observation and discussion. And this is where the observer actually observes the lesson, the recorded lesson. But we observe the lesson with the teacher. So the observer and the teacher watch it together. If you're from the UK, you maybe know the show Gogglebox, which is a TV show which is basically watching people watch TV and commenting on the TV. Or if you're from the US, you have Mystery Science Theater, which is a robot and a monster talking about old horror movies together while the movie goes. But this is like that, and the teacher and the observer basically watch the lesson together, and that's where the conversations come from. And from there, that's where the observation documents come from, and that's where the goal setting comes from. And then the process can start over, and teachers have walked away from these observations feeling very empowered and very much in control of what's going on. If you have any questions about that, then write it in the chat box and we can get to it later. But right now, I will hand it over to the next person.
Well, thank you, Adam. I think observations is always a nervy situation, regardless of which media it is done with. And I agree that with the help of, because of this online teaching, everyone became novice suddenly. And of course, it adds to the pressure. And next person is Bahar. Dr. Bahar Gün is joining us from Izmir. Please go ahead, and she'll be talking about in-service teachers and workshop festivals.
Okay, thank you very much, Burcu. Hi, everyone. My name is Bahar Gün, and I am from Izmir. I work at Izmir University of Economics within the School of Foreign Languages. Before I start, I would like to thank Andy Hockley and the wonderful LAMSIG committee members for inviting me to this wonderful panel. I'm delighted to be here, and those of you who are attending the panel, thank you so much for the interest you are showing. I hope you will find this useful and inspiring. So what I'm going to tell you is our own experience in our school. I will tell you very briefly about the profile of our school, the teachers, and the teacher development unit we have. And then I'm going to spend the biggest chunk of my time on telling you the details about our online workshop festival. And then I'm going to share with you the results from both the teachers as well as the trainer's perspective. So I hope you find it useful. And I'm freaking out because I have 5 minutes. Those of you who know me, 5 minutes is not enough for me, but I will do my best. Okay, so English medium, I think I need to introduce myself. I work as the head of teacher development unit in our school. And I am also the president of TESOL Turkey Association, but I will be telling you about our experience in our TDU at my university. So English, Izmir University of Economics is an English medium university. It's a pretty big university, and School of Foreign Languages, we cater for the needs of the all the language needs of all teachers and students. So within our School of Foreign Languages, we have a big teacher development unit, and I have the pleasure and privilege of working with 9 very experienced and wonderful teacher trainers in my team. What we are doing, we have 3 programs within our school. We have the English preparatory program, which is the biggest program in the school, and we have the undergraduate English program, which is more like academic English kind of courses, and we also have the second foreign languages program. It's another big program in our school. So we are looking at around 200 teachers across 3 programs. And as TDU, we are trying to provide professional development activities for all the teachers in these 3 programs. So up to this year, as teacher development unit, what we did was we offered the teachers a palette of activities, a variety of professional development activities. They picked and chose and they attended all these activities. But this year, our director encouraged us to adopt a new approach, which is more like individualized PD. So what we did as TDU team this year, we adopted this individualized professional development approach, which means we help teachers identify their own professional needs and come up with their own PD projects, and we provide consultancy and guidance, basically. So it was a wonderful approach. It worked great. So how it worked, we allocated the teachers into, to teacher trainers across 3 programs. And we had a chance to work one-on-one with the teachers in our smaller groups. So our plan was to, academic year started like this. We started working with the teachers, and by the time the pandemic hit in March, we had completed almost, all the projects were almost complete, and we were in the stage of preparing for the face-to-face workshop festival. But obviously, I love the title of this session. We found ourselves, like the rest of the world, we found ourselves in that what now situation. So we said, what now? Obviously, we had to shift everything from face-to-face to online platform. And we had to organize our workshop festival in an online platform. In our school, we are using Blackboard as an online platform. So we organized everything in, on Blackboard, basically. The teachers, we asked teachers if they would be willing to share their PD experiences in this online workshop festival. And about 50 teachers volunteered to share their work from 3 programs that I mentioned earlier. And we prepared the program, we published the program, and we conducted the workshop festival. And guess what happened? It was a huge success. It was a huge success for a variety of reasons. Lots of teachers participated. Almost each session was full. Even the shy teachers, I have been working in the school for 14 years, and I have never seen some of the teachers making presentations in the history of our school, but they were there. They went up there on the workshop festival online, and they made wonderful presentations. Great participation from the teachers, from the peer teachers, and they received lots of positive feedback. So this, after we finished the workshop festival, which was, we think, was a huge success, as the TDU, as the trainers team, we got together and made lots of reflections about, what is behind this success of online workshop festival. So obviously, now from the teachers' perspective, obviously they needed some kind of motivation during this pandemic. It's a depressing situation for us all. and it's a challenging time for us all. So obviously they needed that motivation, and they did find that motivation thanks to the festival. So that's one result from the teacher's perspective. And the teachers also saw what can be achieved at these challenging times, which contributed to their motivation again. And it ended up being an investment for next year. So if we have to repeat the same thing next year, we are hoping that more and more teachers will be joining and share their experiences. Another good result for the teachers is that they are going to earn badges for those online workshop festival presentations they are making. I think it's a huge bonus for their PD portfolios. So they are working on this right now, and they will be earning their badges very soon. Then we also talked about what about us? What did we learn as trainers? What did we learn from this experience? Obviously, we were proud moms and dads. We felt very proud, and we felt effective and useful as trainers. And it was a very rewarding experience for us too. It was actually mutual. We supported the teachers, and they supported us. We learned so much from them, and hopefully they learned from us too. And we also, as trainers, we also realized that belonging to a professional group, I mean, the sense of belonging is priceless. And we bonded with teachers even more, thanks to this pandemic situation and the workshop festival experience. And as an end result, it gave us satisfaction, and it gave us sense of achievement. So I can say it was a great professional development experience for us too. So I am hoping that this might inspire you guys in your teaching and training contexts. After I finish my talk, I'm going to share the YouTube channel of our workshop festival with you. And I'm also going to share the Teacher Development Unit website link with you. And if you have any questions to ask me, please feel free to fire away. I will be ready to answer. Thank you very much. And Burcu, are you proud of me? Yes. Did I do well in terms of time?
Okay. 7 minutes, 23 seconds.
Good for me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bahar. I love the way you reflect, like, oh, why are we successful? Even when we are successful, we need to reflect. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Next panelist is our dear Professor Dr. Birsen Tütüniş. She's joining us from Istanbul, yeah? Hocam, we can't hear you. Maybe.
Oh, I hope we.
Yes. Now.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
yes.
me? Yeah, you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Burcu. I would like to thank TTED SIG and LAMSIG for providing us such an opportunity to be over here. So thank you very much indeed. Well, actually, I've been working in Istanbul. I'm based in Istanbul, Turkey, and I've been working for Istanbul Kültür University for so many years. And it's a foundation, we call it. It's a private university founded in 1997. And its mission is to provide quality in education, actually, which is a great mission for all the institutions, I must say. So today I'm going to talk about the Turkish educational system, teacher training, teacher education system, using the PPP model presented by Dr. Pamela Humphreys. It's not the presentation, practice, and production, but it is the policy, politics, and pandemic. Okay, so those, I really enjoyed listening to her, and it was really thought-provoking to talk. And so I'm going to use those three, acronyms: policy, politics, and pandemic. All right. So Turkish teacher education, actually, its university-based initial teacher education started late in 1990s, and then reform movement started in 1997. Higher Education Council was established in 1982. Ministry of Education and Higher Education Council collaborated. They decided to collaborate to bring in quality in education. So I'm not going to talk about the historical background of Turkish teacher education, but I just wanted to mention these days to show you that not much changed since then, unfortunately. I mean, we try to change things, but it's not that easy. So the foreign language teacher education policies are always determined by the governmental policies. Once the people change, the policies also change. So we suffer as teacher trainers. So in teaching English, I mean in English language teaching education programs, the framework of teacher education actually focuses on English as a foreign language in Turkey. So the student teachers are expected to possess pedagogical and content knowledge, educational values, and skills. The main policy is to bring high quality to teacher education. Okay, now Ministry of Education states the policy for language teacher education as increasing language teacher competencies. This is something really big. I wonder whether we can achieve this easily, increasing language teacher competencies. There are many factors. We need to focus on these factors to be able to achieve this goal, actually. But unfortunately, they just say it, but in practice, we don't get that much support from the Ministry of Education or from the Higher Education Council. So the central decision maker performs changes with the claim that the existing system is deficient in its goals. Always they keep saying that it's deficient in its goals. Okay, whatever you bring, we don't like either. So, I mean, since it's a top-down process, they don't consult us when they decide on such things. So that's why I mentioned the dates. So for such a long time, not many things have changed. We still suffer from different things. Okay, so ERT student teachers, I'm going to focus on ERT student teachers. They study at the Faculty of Education. I mean, there are many Faculty of Educations in Turkey. Many universities have got that department, those faculties. They have to sit for an exam, university entry exam. And when they sit for that university entry exam, unfortunately, we cannot choose our students. They just score something well enough to, enter our department. So in the first year, when I ask my students, most of them say, I don't want to become a teacher. I'm just here because my English language was good. So my score in English language was really good, and I'm here. So within those 4 years, we need to change their beliefs and attitudes towards language teaching, and we need to try to make them, teachers. So these teacher candidates need to be selected. Some countries do this. We don't have that chance of selecting our students. They just come due to their points they scored in the language. So, and what we suffer usually in the program, in teacher education program, is the practical part. Most of the courses are theoretical. When it comes to practice, these are going to be teachers. They need practice more than anything else. So when it comes to practice, we have our students practicing language teaching just for one term, 6 hours per week for 14 weeks, okay? So with 84, I think it's 84 hours, isn't it? Within 84 hours or 86 hours, we expect them to become teachers. And we can't change this. This is the rule. This is a regulation sent by higher education organization. But we send our students in the first term to observe classes in the school. So at least this is something for them. They observe the teachers teaching. But since in-service training does not work that well in Turkey, I mean, the Ministry of Education does not prepare, okay, thank you, does not prepare well in-service training for the teachers. Our students, when they become teachers, they go out with lots of knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, but they lack in practice. So what from now on? When let's come back to that question. We really had challenges in this pandemic, and the policies needed to change, and the politics needed to change. So they tried to change some of the things, at least, which would relieve us of the stress. In our institution, for example, they really tried to take the stress out of us, and they guaranteed that no one will lose their jobs. That was something really important for everybody. And for the students, we organized webinars, which we couldn't do in the past. I mean, it was quite costly. We had to, if we organize conferences, we had to invite people and pay a lot of money for that. So this was really good. Let's have a look at the positive side of it. So we could invite many of the professionals to talk to our students, and they were very happy. So that was something pleasing for us. But when it comes to practice, as Adam said, the observation or teaching practice was really pain in the neck. We really had problems there. We didn't know what to do. Ministry of Education said, okay, now I accept everybody. I say that this is done, and they get good grades, you see? And then that's it. The Ministry of Education did not say that I'm employing them. Just said that the practicum is finished successfully. Then we had to do things, and we didn't have the technology. So the positive side was everybody learned something from new things, the technology, you know, we improved our technological knowledge in a way. Everybody learned something, and we started doing things for our students, and they videotape themselves, and then those videos are watched by the peers, and we had to give feedback to our students. So I mean, this is, if we have a look at the positive side of pandemic, we can say that teachers need to be lifelong learners. And all the student teachers and the teacher trainers, educators learned that we have to be lifelong learners. So we learned new things. This is the positive side of it. But negative side, I'm not sure whether we prepared our students for real life teaching. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Birsen Hocam. I really liked how you started it with the politics and pandemic. And
yes.
Policy is always there, but for several different reasons, politics get into the way, and now we have another challenge with pandemic. This and I also liked your idea of what you highlighted about teachers being lifelong learners. A lot of us actually learned how to teach while teaching. A lot of us, and there are lots of other courses and support. Tom will be talking us about it, even though it's about pre-service, but a lot of people benefit from pre-service teacher training opportunities such as Zelta, Trinity, and Bahar. I will want Bahar to mention a little bit about that. We were going to talk about that, but there wasn't enough time in the second round. Now this takes us to Kalyan's topic, which is also an interesting area. I mean, Birsen Hoca talked about pre-service teacher training and some challenges related with it. Kalyan will be talking about the quality assurance perspective of online learning. Thank you, Kalyan. Over to you.
Thank you, Burchu. Thank you, SIG. Thank you, Andy, and my colleagues in the SIG committee, and all the participants. It's a great opportunity for me to say a few things about accountability and quality in online learning for teachers. Now, as we know that since February, we are actually forced to in a situation where in-service teacher training hardly takes place in face-to-face context in different parts of the world. I'm not just talking about India. Even yesterday in my city where I live in Calcutta, there was a lockdown. So
sorry, Kalyan, can you tell us who you are so other people know what you do in Calcutta?
Okay, so if you just want to tell me who I am, I work as Associate Professor of English on the University of Calcutta. And half of my education in India. I did one MA in India, another at the University of Leeds, PhD in the UK. And my area of expertise, if you can call it expertise, is language teaching and learning with technology. I do a lot of in-service teacher training, both at the state sector and the private sector. And these days, what I am facing is we have to do it online because we cannot do it in a face-to-face context. There's a huge challenge, and because of the social distancing, all these things are happening. Now, let me focus on the two key terms. First of all, the term quality. What do we mean by quality here? And the quality involves a lot of other things. First of all, by quality of in-service teacher training, and that too online. We talk about a kind of an infrastructure development, and the infrastructure needs to be quite reliable. The infrastructure could be something like Zoom, something like Adobe Connect, but that also needs to be supplemented by a kind of a virtual learning environment, which you can talk about Google Classroom or a Moodle customized for your institution or Microsoft Blackboard. So you have a learning environment to back up what you are actually doing live online. But the question is here, quality. Does that ensure quality that the institution has infrastructure? Does that only assure quality? No, certainly not. It requires a lot of planning that, how you are going to use that resources. So are we going to train our teachers how to use those resources? Yes. So what is happening currently in my city, meaning many college and university teachers are participating in, FDP program, meaning faculty development program, which is not recognized by anybody, but is run by an institution, whether it is a college or a university, whether that is a teacher training institute. So it's running that, and in course of the planning, they want to ensure that they can offer a decent, reliable infrastructure, and they can provide support to the staff as well. Now, two other important aspects of assuring quality is when we are running the course, whether we are taking regular feedback. So you can take regular feedback and improve the course outcomes, and you can also take feedback at the end of the course. Now, when you take the feedback, this feedback actually ensures accountability, because whether I'm training my teachers well, or whether teachers are actually getting what they are expecting to, or whether the teacher trainer is actually training what actually is doing online, that can be ensured not only through the observation that my fellow colleague talked about, but also it can be ensured by regular feedback, along with a kind of a very clear-cut channel of communication. So how we are going to communicate with our peers when we are in an online learning platform. So that is something is quite significant and important for us. So I think that if you want to looking for the quality brings accountability. For example, I trained a group of teachers, and the question that actually came up, a group of school teachers who are teaching teachers from class 3 to 5. And the question that came up from the management is how we can ensure a kind of that we are doing quality teaching. Because the problem is that the parents actually are complaining that my students are not going to the school anymore, but what the teachers are doing, we don't know, right? So how that can be ensured that the quality teaching is being offered. So all the sessions are getting recorded, and through Google Classroom that is shared with the parents also, right? Now, so this can be done. Yeah, this can be done as well. For example, this session is getting recorded. Whether this is a quality session or not, that can be determined if we hear the recording thereafter. So these are some of the ways that the technology is actually helping us to ensure quality and ensure accountability on the part of the teachers and the trainers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kalyan. I think you touched upon very interesting things such as, for example, teachers not being in close communication with other peers. And we know that teachers learn best from their peers, their like teacher room discussions. And I, as when I was teaching online, I felt that need. You just want to talk about it, you just want to share your feelings, feedback to each other. I think that was one of the missing things. And now, thank you very much for your notes. And also, it created a lot of challenges in terms of quality monitoring. Now, I'd like to introduce Tom. Tom is going to be talking about pre-service teaching, but online maybe, a new platform.
Also in service, but yeah, that's good. So thank you. My name is Tom Garside. I'm Director of Teacher Training and founder of Language Point Teacher Education. And we are a Trinity College Cert TESOL provider and other qualifications provider. And our aim, I guess, is to bring teacher training and teacher development to regions of the world and to teachers who would not have access to this kind of training before. So we're working to make pre-service and in-service courses much more inclusive, much more sustainable, and much more flexible to reflect the real needs of teachers around the world. So this idea of the new normal has come on the back of quite strong and quite fast developments in online education. So even pre-COVID, there were huge leaps in teaching technology, education technology in the world, coming out of China especially, and Asia especially, but also reaching different countries. So I guess the COVID situation has come on the back of these huge developments. So we have a lot more online and blended teaching and learning opportunities and training opportunities for teachers. And that's what I'm going to talk about, what's kind of coming out of this, what now? So the current situation of lockdown and everything going online is kind of working in line with what we already do at Language Point, which is kind of working with these new trends, which are mainly that teacher training and teacher education are becoming more accessible through the online mode. And they're also becoming more informed. The training design is becoming more informed by the settings or the context where the teachers actually work. So it's becoming more relevant to them. So two examples of this, based around two of the courses which we deliver, are firstly the Trinity Cert TESOL, which we deliver traditionally is an on-site kind of 4-week intensive pre-service qualification where trainees have to travel to a city typically. They have to find accommodation in that city maybe. You know, they have the high course fees to pay, and it's a significant outlay of money and time and stress and focus, which I think can't happen now because the physical restrictions which we have because of COVID. So now that we can deliver this course in an online only mode, it's suddenly opened up the qualification to any region of the world, actually, anywhere where there's an internet connection, people can take this course, where previously it was restricted to only a few countries actually where Trinity College had a presence already and could send assessors and, you know, work with the physical environments. So we're reaching a lot of teachers who wouldn't have had access to this before. This online mode means also that we can cut costs. So, you know, fewer costs for premises, for training hours, things like that. So we can make the qualification cheaper and therefore more accessible worldwide. And I think that's a trend in teacher training generally online. I think cost cutting is much more realistic now. Observations, which are the major hurdle, is about 50% of the course is practical, based around, you know, teaching practice and observations. We're doing by video or online. So now we can go into teachers' real classrooms, wherever they are in the world. And again, like Adam was saying, observe them at a distance through video or through live stream. Or they can be teaching in an online, using an online system such as this, and we can record it and they can send it to us and we can observe it that way. So it doesn't have to be real time, doesn't have to be synchronous observations. And that opens up so many possibilities. Like Adam said, loving that Gogglebox idea. I'm going to definitely try that. Watching teachers watching themselves, I think, is a really interesting aspect of observation and feedback. So again, this can open up the qualification and make it much more accessible, and we can play around with the observation kind of mode much more. So a result of this accessibility and this kind of the variation in training modes is that the qualification and the knowledge and the experience of the qualification can be more integrated into what teachers really do every day. We can go into their real classrooms and we can watch them really teach the people that they teach every day. You know, we're not pulling them out of their home environment and kind of plonking them into a training center with this kind of slightly artificial environment for training. We're actually following them in what they're actually doing every day. And the flexibility of the qualification makes it much more relevant to teachers' real needs wherever they teach. Okay, the second example I want to talk about is a new qualification, which is called the Certificate for Practicing Teachers, or the CERT-PT, which is a new development qualification from Trinity College. It's regulated at level 6 on the Ofqual framework, which is higher than the CERT TESOL. And it's designed as an in-service qualification for teachers, where they can develop what they do, again, focused on the learners that they teach every day. So the heart of the qualification, the heart of their development is where they work every day. And they use that group of learners as the starting point for all of their assignment work, all of the research that they do. And they use their real experience in the qualification. So it can focus on CLIL or EAP or business English or young learners or large classes. We can tailor it to meet the needs of the teachers. It's also more accessible because it is open to CEFR B2 speakers of English, unlike the CERT TESOL and the CELTA where it's C1 level. So this reflects kind of the real profile of the majority of English teachers around the world. And that's something which is really important to bring these qualifications to people in any context. So I think these new developments reflect the needs of the vast majority of English teachers worldwide, wherever they work, private industry, public sector. And this decentralization of teacher training and education means that the formal training that teachers can get can work alongside teachers' real classroom work. And we're starting to lose the kind of exclusivity of this traditional mode of qualification. And I think that can only be a good thing. So despite the horrible tragedy of the pandemic, you know, I think it is opening up some interesting doors into online teaching and into more flexible ways of doing things.
Thank you, Tom. I really like the idea of having in-service programs for in-service teachers as well, because as we spoke, lifelong learning is a must. You can never be a 100% great teacher. That's my experience in the last 30 years. And you can always learn something better, to do better. Now, we came to the stage where I'm going to be addressing some questions to, as much as I could collect from the chat box. And this will give us a chance to dig deeper a few of the things. For instance, for Adam, somebody asked who controls the video, and another person said that observing recording might be taking too much time. Is there an option of live observations and maybe watching some bits together? And somebody wanted some tips for Zoom observation.
Good. So this will be like a memory test.
Yeah,
I'll try to remember all of those questions in order.
I'll remind you, but try to be.
No, the first question is really easy. Yeah, exactly. The first question is really easy. Who controls the recording is the teacher. The teacher records it locally on their hard drive. They can watch it, including the ones they don't want to use for observations, and go from there. So the teacher has all the control there.
So live observation.
The online observation, yeah. Yeah, exactly. The other one was about the time-consuming aspect of it. That's a really interesting question as well. It tends not to be as time-consuming as all that necessarily, because there is that built-in flexibility. So it's not intruding into the schedules so much. You can find time around it. That being said, there's no reason to watch the whole thing necessarily. And if the teacher decides on the parts they want to watch, they have the time signatures in the video, and you just watch those things. The criticism of that is often, well, then you only see the good parts of the good parts of the lesson, and the teacher chooses the best. But I would respond to that and say there's nothing wrong with just seeing the best of the lesson. I mean, the best parts are actually very often the parts that development is built on. I mean, of course, if there's a huge problem, you would probably know about it anyway. But if you're talking about developmental observations, then this is very often the best parts, or the parts the teacher chooses, are the parts they're interested in developing anyway. So it's a good launching point, and maybe you only watch 10 minutes of the video. So yeah, it's a good point. And the third question, I've totally forgotten. Sorry.
It was some tips for Zoom, but I think you already gave, and I'd like
to tips for Zoom is like the teacher can mark down the best parts, with the time signature. So let's watch minute 67 instead of minute 15, whatever. Another huge advantage, which I didn't mention, is just teachers observing themselves without an observer. This is one of the things I took away from teaching with Bahar. Izmir University has a great system of lesson recordings. You get multiple camera angles. It records the screen, and this is all live. It's amazing, and you get a little bit punch drunk watching yourself because you never had that opportunity before, and it becomes kind of addictive when you first get used to it. It's like, and that maybe helped my teaching more than any single observation I've ever had, is just observing myself as an observer also, and giving myself critique. And I was ruthless.
Second that. That's very important opportunity.
And the last thing I would say for the other tips for Zoom is to look at the lessons either with the teacher or the teacher alone, and it's a great way to see how the methods and approaches you've been using in person, how they actually translate online, because that's sometimes difficult to gauge in the moment. And so I've been doing it this way for 20 years. Of course, I can just do it online. Is there actually a better way to do it online? and it's often just a small tweak, right? And then suddenly it's online ready. But without recognizing it in the recording, it's often very hard to isolate those different tweaks that need to be taken on approaches. So those would be my tips for Zoom observation. Thank
you, Adam. Very useful. This takes me to Izmir and Bahar. You mentioned that there are some options that you provide to your teachers at your university. Somebody asked about the options and whether they are free to choose them or obliged to do them. How do you create the alternatives? And another person asked whether there was any trends in your emerging trends in the workshop festival.
Okay, thank you. Now, like I said in my talk, up to this year, until this year, we were offering a variety of activities. And these activities were sometimes like workshops, one-off workshops, or some projects, or some special interest groups about grammar, for example, about pronunciation, for example. Some short courses about a variety of topics. So we offered all these activities to the teachers, and yes, teachers were free to choose them. But this year, what we did was slightly different. We asked teachers what they want to work on. So they identified their own professional needs. They picked their own PD projects, and they presented them in the workshop festival. The topics emerged in the workshop festival. Some of them were like serious research projects, by the way. They collected data, they did literature review, they analyzed their findings. So we are looking at lots of good research projects that were shared in the workshop festival. And the topics, it ranged from specific classroom teaching techniques to use of L1 in classroom, and obviously technology. And what was interesting was that after COVID-19, the teachers changed their PD projects, and they included the online component. So they started sharing their experiences after we shifted to online teaching. So that also changed the content of some of the PD projects that the teachers shared. But there was no pressure, I should say. Teachers, we as trainers, we were there to facilitate only. It was entirely up to the teachers to choose their PD projects, and they make the decision whether they want to share it with the rest of the world or not.
Thank you so much.
Say something about CELTA?
Yes, please, with one sentence.
One sentence. Okay, I'm forming one very long sentence now. Economy University has been a center, CELTA Center, for about 17 years. And I have been a CELTA tutor and trainer for about 7 years. So I think it's fair for me to say that there is always demand for CELTA courses, whether it's online or face-to-face. So after COVID-19, from my colleagues in the world and from other centers, I am seeing that there is still demand for online CELTA. When it comes to our experience in our center, what we did, we were offering an intensive summer CELTA, face-to-face, obviously, CELTA course, and there were about 15 participants. After COVID-19, we emailed them and we asked what they would prefer. In our case, they preferred face-to-face. So we are going to keep that back, and we are going to do our online, face-to-face CELTA course next summer, fingers crossed, inshallah. But if not, we will have to resort to online CELTA courses too. So that's our experience. But I know in many other centers around the world, there are lots of CELTA courses online going on. Thank you.
Actually, somebody asked, Joe asked, I wonder if Cambridge will be able to stop the fully online CELTA, even when it is not necessary. I'm not so sure about that. Any thoughts?
As far as I know, online CELTA has always been an option, even before COVID-19. I know some centers were doing online CELTA, so I don't think it's going to stop. I think both will continue after COVID-19, I would say.
Thank you.
Can I just say?
Yes, Tom.
I think that the online center that was offered before COVID-19 was called Online Center, but I believe it was a blended. The teaching practice still had to be face to face. I believe. Is that right, Bahar? Are you?
I'm not sure. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can in here, but the you know, there's been a blended course for 10 years or more with the online, but the teaching practice has always been face to face. So this fully online version has only happened since March, and they've said that it's only for courses up that start until the end of December this year. But I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. I don't have any inside track or anything, I don't know, but I'm very interested to see what will happen, because it seems to me that an awful lot of centres, or at least some centres, are doing really well out of this, that they're running a lot of courses that they wouldn't otherwise be running, and have a lot more trainees than they'd otherwise have, because of the lack of geographical constraints. And so I think that there's going to be a big push, and it seems to me, again, sort of informally, I haven't done any formal research on this, but at the beginning, a lot of trainers were kind of going, oh, is it going to be, you know, the same? And my feeling from talking, you know, when I've assessed these courses, has been that people largely sort of say now, well, you know, yes, okay, it's not exactly the same, and we'd like to be face to face and all the rest, but actually the skills that they're developing are not that different. They really are. You know, we do feel confident to put our names behind this, and it's okay.
Oh yeah. If they didn't, then it wouldn't happen, right? They wouldn't get the accreditation. So
I'm really interested in what will happen once it's not 100% necessary anymore, because I think there's going to be a lot of centres who are going to say, actually, we still want to do it. Anyway, that's my topic.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Thank you very much for the contribution, Jo. And I'm very conscious of time. I think we need to close. There's one comment. There are lots of good comments related to what we said about lifelong learning, like Birsen highlighted, and Tom, the teacher training online and online opportunities that we gained. There's one thing that is to Kalyan. About quality control. This quality assurance or quality monitoring may have the risk to turn into quality control, which brings some kind of anxiousness to teachers. Any comments? And after that, I think we can close our conversation. And please, Kalyan.
I think I noticed there are two questions. One is actually the question that you raised, and another is about the young learners, how they are going to respond to being recorded when they are being taught online. Now, the whole thing is how you actually develop the environment, or actually train your teachers. So teachers are told that they are convinced about the improved outcomes of what they are doing if they are observed. So they are not observed by another colleague. So the teachers are also asked to look at their own video, meaning that their own teaching, and find pros and cons about it, and to work on the cons. More or less, you may say that this is how the recording is linked to a kind of a reflection. So the teachers reflect by looking at the video. Now, for example, when I teach in a face-to-face situation, the reflection I do, or when I train in face-to-face context, the reflection I do is something relying on my memory or my notes. But here I can look at what I have done with my trainees or my students. So that is the greatest advantage. Yes, one of the greatest advantage of looking at your own video. So the teachers were convinced that you have something more from it than losing it out. So you don't need to be anxious that you lose your job or something or like that you are not doing, etc. But you have the opportunity, and it is in your hands to take from it and improve your own thing. And if you need help, the help will be provided by more experienced or senior colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody, our participants who have been unbelievably interactive. They have been commenting, they have been supporting us and agreeing with our presenters. And I think we shouldn't take more of your time, but these topics are huge topics and we will never find a moment to complete them. I think it's going to be evolving and progressing, and we will be learning. Everybody's learning from the experience. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Burcu. Thank you, Burcu, and the rest of the team. It was great.
Thank you.
Thanks, that was great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andy. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone. Amazing
Bye-bye.
audience. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you, see some familiar faces as well, Ivan.